so much to the show. I'm super excited to have you. I want to talk first about your podcast that you've released, Billie Jean Offends the Internet, where you talk about everything from Bernie Sanders to Grant Cardone's bankruptcy thing that he put out there to Tiger King.
To Mother's Day.
Exactly. I just saw that one this morning. So what is it for you that makes you happy to put out things that may offend people? Are you know, so many people in this space are worried about offending people.
Yeah. So Billie Jean's marketing offends the internet. It was really about just like, I felt like when it comes to the business world, everybody tries to be gray, right? Because it's not like a sport or like music where people are used to the competitive spirit. Granted, business is the most competitive sport in the world. So everybody's soft. Everybody's afraid to call people out, etc. And in the episodes, I'm not actually negative on anybody. I just literally have open conversations about the shit that nobody else wants to ask. So when me and Grant were chopping it up, it was just all the questions that nobody would have the balls to ask. And I was like, yes, I'll ask. And me and Grant know each other for a while. So it was like, let's have a real conversation, uncensored. And it gave me a platform to just be myself. Like, the offensive part is just really my language and my personality, because it's so like the things I'd say on my own podcast, I would never say on yours. Like, it's too bad. Like, you know, but for anybody who's really immature and enjoys unfiltered satire, it's the thing for you.
And I feel like you've really grown your agency in that way by just being yourself. And I think your story has been the perfect example of showing people that you don't need to be gray. And when you are gray, you're going to attract a whole bunch of people that you don't want to work with, and maybe not necessarily attract the people that you do. So a couple questions from my audience. I put this out there. Billie Jean's coming on. What do you guys want to know? And one of the questions that we got was, how did you go from where you were to 7-figure to 8-figure, then to 9-figure powerhouse?
We're coming. We're on the road to 9. But I mean, honestly, like, I just got, without like boring stories and all the basic shit that everybody hears, like, I literally just got really good at something. It'd be like Michael Jordan, like, I'm not comparing myself to Michael Jordan, but because he's relevant right now. Michael Jordan, it's like, Michael Jordan, how'd you get to where you went? Like, I got really good at basketball. You know what I mean? Like Roger Federer, like, I got really good at tennis. Ronaldo, I got really good at soccer. Like, that's the answer. It's the same business. Like, I got really good at generating leads for people. I got really good at using paid advertisements to get companies customers. And every aspect of my money that I generate comes from that. From the relationships that I made came from that. And so mastery. And it's something that, I mean, we live in this world where everybody tries to fucking outsource everything. I want to outsource this. I want to outsource this. And no one's a master. But they want master-like pay. They want master-like results when they're not. And it just doesn't make any sense. So I got really fucking good at what I do with practice and doing it and application, not theory and reading, by doing, you know, and testing a lot.
Okay. If there was one decision in your journey that you had to attribute all the success that followed, what would that one decision be?
Making the leap and actually trying advertising, even though I had all the same fears as everybody else, which is, am I going to lose my money? Does this stuff actually work? Is Zuckerberg a scam? Will Facebook rip me off? Like, you know, I don't want to pay to get a customer, like all the ignorant things. And the thing that changed my mind could never have been a conversation. It was only doing it and making more than I spent. Spending, you know, a few $100 and making back 1,000 plus and be like, holy shit. This is like the lotto, and getting so excited. So, you know, taking the leap of faith on paid ads, and then realizing when you look at all the most successful companies in the world, like, this is the formula that they use for a reason, because it works.
How much did you spend on your first ad campaign when you did have that fear of like, am I going to lose my money?
$80. And I spent $80 and I made a $5 sale, which was a trial for like this program that we had for to help people quit smoking. It's a long story. And then after the trial, they're automatically billed $60 at the end of the week. That was the first time I ever made a sale. So we lost money, and the person canceled the trial immediately after. But I knew it was possible. I knew it could happen. I knew that I could make money while I sleep because I did it. Now, granted, I lost. It still happened, and that it rewired my brain. I was never able to think the same way. Once I woke up and had an email that said, you've got money or you've got cash from PayPal, I was like, I just want more of these emails. And here we are.
Awesome. I love that. If you could market for one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I've never been asked that question. Shit. You know, probably the fucking ShamWow. The ShamWow, that cloth that like did everything. It was just such a cool infomercial that did really well. I would have loved to take my stab at that and to do some ridiculous things with that. Like any kind of physical product that the masses could use where I could really leverage humor and being ridiculous and some polarizing content, maybe I would have fun with that. That would have been a good time. I'm trying to think who else, like, yeah, I don't know. It's any probably the physical product. That's a good question. I have to do some more thinking on that. But that's the first thing that came to mind. The fucking ShamWow.
I see like a ShamWow making an appearance in one of your
ads.
Yeah,
we may have to bring it. We may have to bring it back. Maybe a scene 2 coming.
Yeah. There you go. What would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned?
Never try and figure out shit by yourself. That's a sucker's game. That's a fucking idiot's game. It's not. It's ignorant. It's the dumbest thing ever. Like anything that actually matters, nobody does that. You wouldn't try and build a house by yourself without asking someone or getting help. You wouldn't try and do open heart surgery, by yourself. Like no one plays a sport by themselves ever at any age, right? They always have a coach or something. Only in entrepreneurship do we have, and that's why you have the fucking failure rate like over 90%. It's to me, it's the most insane thing ever. And I was super guilty of it in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. And that was my biggest mistake. And I wish I would have saved all that time and money from just asking professionals.
Okay. Who have been the biggest mentors on your journey?
They're different, they're usually problem specific, so like early on, like Frank Kern, learned a lot from him in regards to direct response. When it comes to hiring and like scaling, Cameron Harold has been really good. But I mean, I've learned from so many people, so many peers, like, my buddy, like Vince Reed, or like shout out to like Ryan Stewman. Like I learned a lot from him and sales, like everyone. I try and walk into a room and just be the dumbest guy ever. And I'm always trying to learn. Like from this interview, like I know there's things I can learn from you. Like I'm just everywhere I go. So, I'm a sponge. I stay with podcasts. I stay with, books. I stay like all the shit. Like I just love to learn. And I don't love to learn because I'm some crazy. I had like a 2.8 or some shit. It's not like I'm a learner, so to speak. I just really enjoy going faster. I'm really impatient. Honestly, that's probably my whole reason why I learn is I'm just more impatient than everybody. So I want the answer fast. So I just look it up or ask people. And then as I got money, it was like, okay, I don't want the book. I'm just going to call the fucking author and pay for their time. And that's the shortcut.
Okay. How did you learn to put aside your ego? So one thing I see with a lot of entrepreneurs when they are in that know-it-all, I can do it all phase is they're very ego driven. So how did you learn to put away your ego that you come into conversations like this one where we've never met before? I'm not on the same level as you are. And yet you're like, what can I learn from you? How did you put that away?
I think experience, like, and also too, I've always kind of put my ego to the side when it comes to learning, but like where I had my ego, it was really because I was being defensive, right? Like I wanted to prove to everybody that I could do this and everyone who doubted me. So my ego wasn't so much as like, oh, I'm so cool. It was like, I'll show you. I was over arrogant because I'll show you. And then once you actually start to get it, like you realize you don't really have the desire to show anybody. Like I don't actually give a fuck what anybody thinks. But when I'm just getting started, that was my brain and what I thought. And so, I think experience and the ROI that I've gotten from learning from others is what makes me do that now. Is there's just you talk to any successful person, the more you go up, the more you realize you don't know. Just as anybody who's into learning or personal development, the more you go and you realize, holy cow, I don't know. And you've seen things that I have not seen and vice versa. And so for me, it's okay. What can I learn?
Awesome. What would you say has been the biggest success or the thing that you're most proud of on your journey?
Probably the fact that all of this started from like nothing, like an idea. We sit here and we're in my podcast studio. with Paul and Johnny here, and we're just making some content. Like, it's just, to me, I laugh every day because it's so fucking ridiculous. Like, all of it, it's just, the whole thing is like what is like, it's just, our whole office is ridiculous. Like, we're in a podcast studio, there's a theater next door with 25 seats. Like, they're like, everything is ridiculous. Like, the whole thing, I don't know. I guess I'm most proud of the fact that taking an idea and turning it into something that genuinely helps people. You know, we have now almost 100,000 students in 75 countries. Like, and I feel like we dick around all day. I don't know. Like, and granted, obviously we work our butts off. I don't think people understand how much we work, but like, you know, sometimes it's just like, what'd you do today? I don't know. I just went in the studio and shot some podcasts and then wrote some ads, and you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. Just the whole thing is knowing that you can go from, you know, living in your parents' house in super debt to, you know, doing over $10 million last year, and, you know, having $365,000 days and $2.2 million months. You know, the whole thing feels like, what the fuck? You know, I feel lucky.
That's awesome. You definitely do have a badass office. I feel like you should do like a Cribs episode of your office, because every time I watch one of your videos, I'm like, I need that.
We actually are overdue on like a Cribs. Yeah, that's a good one. See, watch this, Tiffany. We just learned that from you. I was like, that was good insight. Now we'll actually create it. Like, there it is.
Can't wait to see it. So, do you celebrate your wins? At this point in your journey, do you still celebrate?
I'm not good at that. You know, I know I'm not the only one. I'm not really good at that. Like, I probably should be better at it, but I'm definitely guilty of, when we do something, the first thing my brain goes to is, damn, we could have done this 3 times better if we did this. Like, you know, and especially like, I'm watching this Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance, and like, when you see the level he's playing at, the dedication, the focus, and, you know, I'm just good at being honest with myself. I think that's what it is. And like, when I accomplish something, I know it was like 60%. I don't think I've ever been 100% consistently for a time. I'll have moments like a lot of humans. And so I do think about like, well, what can we do next? Or if we did this, then what can we really do? So yeah, I don't know. And also too, you get to the point, like, money doesn't like excite me the way, like, I like what you can do with it, but like, I don't know, just different priorities, I guess. So no, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what would make me really happy. I think it's when we get our TV show. I think that's the next thing. Like, when we get our TV show and like we're doing that, I think that next chapter will be fun. And then, you know, after that, we have to decide what it is from there, you know? I don't know, man. I think I remember trying to get 2 students. I remember trying to get 2 clients, and then we get 500 clients or 1,000. I remember trying to get 2 students, and then it was 20, 200, and then it was 2,000, it was 20,000, almost 100,000. You know, it's fucking weird. It's weird. It feels weird.
Well, you put out great courses. So anybody listening who hasn't hopped into Billie Jean's programs, I highly recommend you do. I have
Thank you.
Mostly everything that you've ever put out, and it's always amazing.
Appreciate it.
So, of course, putting out that you were coming onto the show and asking the audience what they wanted to hear, of course, marketing questions are going to come up.
Yeah,
so the one that I wanted to bring to you was, somebody's marketing themselves to a cold audience. How do they get people's attention and have success with that campaign? How would you set that up?
You know, I wouldn't think of marketing or advertising. I would just think about like human interaction. So like, if you wanted a human being to like you and we just met in person, you know, it functions very similar to that. And so, you know, one question that I would ask there is like, okay, hey, if like you're meeting someone else and you want them to like want to work with you or respect with you, one of the best ways to do that is to teach them something new. Like, just even imagine, like, what kind of phone do you have, iPhone or Android?
I have iPhone.
iPhone. Okay. So imagine if I came up to you and I showed you like 3 features on your iPhone that you didn't know you had, like the flashlight, for example. Like, let's pretend you didn't know about the flashlight. I was like, hey, did you know that you can turn this on and boom, you have a flashlight like this? Or, hey, did you know you can press this button and it records all your calls immediately? Or, hey, did you know you can click this and and I taught you 3 new things. You'd be like, I like that guy. No, he was super cool. Like, it was an easy win, right? Or if we met and I said, hey, you're in town for the first time? Awesome. You got to go to this restaurant. Go to this restaurant and order this. Thank me later. Then you go and it's the best meal you ever had. Like, oh shit, I like this guy. Show me 3 ways to work my phone. He told me the best restaurant to work at. Like, this guy's pretty cool. I like him. So I think it's the same way when you're advertising your product or service online. What can you teach people to give them an easy win? Also, the things that I gave you, they're easy, immediate wins. That's a big part of getting people to fall in love with you. What can you give them right away that makes them go, fuck, that's good? Or give them a light bulb moment or a perspective shift. And when you do those things, that's how you become known, right? And then you become known as the person who's always giving me the best restaurant recommendations, or always giving me the best cool things to do with my phone, or always giving me the best tips on how to save money, or whatever your industry is. So teach someone something new is a great way to be liked. And then also another way is association. If they already know, like, and trust somebody, and you're consistently seen with that person and of approval, usually you get stamped a little bit faster, just like in real life. If I was like, hey, Tiffany, this is John Doe. And you'd be like, oh, nice to meet you, John Doe. You're hanging out with Billy. You must be cool peoples. Same way. So it's no different with advertising than just meeting people. It's just at scale and faster and bigger.
I think that's that was definitely a huge shift for me in my business, was that kind of Frank Kern style intent-based branding, or just, content marketing in general, just putting out value to people, and then the people who like it, they'll come.
For sure. And I think value even too, like, sometimes it's too broad where people can't like comprehend like what that means, like value. So I just like solving problems, right? Solving problems or making someone's life easier or making them happier. There you go.
Awesome. How do you want to be remembered in this life?
As the guy who empowered the little guy or little girl, as the guy who took the underdog, gave them the tools that they usually wouldn't have, and changed their lives, hands down. Like, if they look back and say, hey, that team, that weird band of brothers and sisters that did the wildest shit, boy, did they fucking help a lot of people. Like, I just want to look back in 20 years, 30 years, and have some of the biggest companies in the world talk about, oh yeah, when I was first starting off, I took this guy Billy Jean's courses. You know what I mean? Like, that's cool. Similar to what Tony Robbins has. Tony Robbins has, except his focus is a little bit different, right? It being a different skill set, but that's what he could say. I like that.
Awesome. And last question for you before we wrap up. The people listening to this, they're sitting on the fence somewhere in life or business. What would be the one tip that you would give them to help them make the decision and take the leap?
Don't do it if you hate risk. I would actually give them tips on what not to do. And if they still want to do it, then they should do it. So number one, like I had a fucking, if someone was interviewing to work with us, and they said, well, I said, well, what's your plans? Like, what's your goals, et cetera? And like, well, someday it'd be nice to be a CEO. And I was like, I love that. And then when he was talking about assessing the job, he says, well, here's what I'm looking at. And he literally had 4 items itemized of how risky certain things would be. Well, if I work here, here's what I'm risking. And his brain totally went through all these fear-based risking. And I said, can I be real with you? Outside of this, like, the last thing you'll ever want to be is a fucking entrepreneur. Period. Like, if you're looking for entrepreneurship as a means to like get what you want, it's not it. Like, for example, like some people like, I want to be an entrepreneur, but really they just want more time. Well, fucking ask your boss if you can have more time. Like, I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to make more money. Well, ask your boss if you can work on a plan where you can have more money. It like, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean you go and do all these other things because it's, and if you don't do well with problems or making decisions, like, don't be a fucking entrepreneur. You don't like risks. You can't make a decision. Don't be a fucking entrepreneur. Like, you don't like weight of other people. And just don't be a fucking entrepreneur, So my thing is, well, if none of those things scares you, then you should take the leap and go. That's, but if not, stay the fuck away.
Yeah. I don't think I realized how much risk was in being an entrepreneur until I started. And I was like, oh, right. Huh. All right.
100%. And it's hard to see on the outside looking in, right? Most of the things you see on Shark Tank, for example, like, they don't feel very risky, right? They don't. And so again, like, I think that trait is, has been drowned out as, you gotta be able to embrace the risk. And, for example, a lot of people don't make the moves necessary to move the company forward because they're afraid of losing. Well, what if I invest $1,000 and it doesn't work? Okay. And then it doesn't work and you figure it the fuck out. Like, if you're paralyzed by those things, like legit, just don't be an entrepreneur. And I don't say that in like a condescending way. There's so many other ways to make money and to be happy and to be on great teams. Like, you know, I'd be lying to you if I said I always liked my CEO role. I do sometimes, and sometimes I do not like my role, but I understand the vision and what we need to do and where we need to go. But, you know, like, it's very glorified right now. You know, entrepreneurship is very fucking glorified. And aspects of it are, and others are stupid. So, you know.
And I think right now with everything that's gone on with coronavirus as well, it's, you know, there's this huge push. We'll just start a business online. And
yeah, it's so easy. Exactly. Yeah, you just go. Yeah, this is all you have to do, and it's just fucking, you know, it's yeah.
So those people who are like, okay, well, I'm just going to go start a business online, where can they find your courses? Where should they connect with you?
Definitely listen every Monday to Friday in the mornings. Billy Genius Marketing offends the internet. Like, that's the podcast, Spit and Fire every day. It's insanely inappropriate, so don't listen if you're offended. I'm racist. I'm sexist. I curse all the time. I'm everything. Like, don't do it. But if you like those things, come on. And I'm obviously joking when I say those things. But I would say, yeah, just follow us on Instagram. Go to our website. We'll retarget you. I'll find you. We'll find you online. We'll have you buy our shit. We'll get you. Yeah. We'll get you at some point.
Join the mailing list. You'll find the best offers that are coming out.
Exactly. So, well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Take the lead with Tiffany Tunes. It's time to take the lead. It's time to take the lead. It's time to take the lead with Tiffany Tunes.